it's me and my two sons. And by the time I was 30, I was working part-time and I was able to buy myself a house. And my friends that were married and, you know, had two good jobs were not. And that's just because of the belief that people put that if you're single, or if you're Black, or if you're a woman, you can't afford a house, you can't buy a house. Well, I found a way. I didn't go through the traditional way. I didn't go get approved because they would not approve me. But I found at that time you could assume a mortgage, so you could take over someone else's mortgage, and that's what I did. And I was able to buy my house at the age of 30.
Hey everyone, my name is Chris-Beth Cowie and I'm the founder of Empowered for X. And we are super excited today to give you an opportunity to meet our amazing guests. I've known this woman, dynamic woman, over the past couple years, and I am super excited to have Kara Morgan on our stage today. And so this is day 2 of the BizGrams, and as you know, we just started yesterday talking about some business tips and advice, really wanting to meet entrepreneurs in the community who are ultimately going to make a positive who are making a positive difference, and really getting some of their experiences shared with us, some of their insights, how they have overcome challenges, how they are currently navigating this, landscape called COVID, and really looking at ways in which they can pay it forward moving on. And so Kara is the founder of PlanIt Efficiency Solution, and they provide helping with process management and business solutions for entrepreneurs. And it is my privilege to invite and welcome Kara Morgan. So thank you so much for being here, Kara.
Thanks. Nice to be here. Nice to be with you. And yeah, we've known each other for quite a while. And I'm really stoked about all the things you're doing in the community. Very proud of you.
Hey, thank you so much. And I love to give some love, so I'm giving you some love, Kara.
Yes,
thank you. And one of the things that I when we first met a couple years ago, we were talking to entrepreneurs within the Black community in particular, in partnership with the Toronto Community Benefits Network, talking about social enterprises and opportunities where the government and the cities and even private companies are looking for procurement opportunities. And what we found is that there are many businesses within our network that is not ready to get in front of those larger bodies for procurement. But there's also a group of entrepreneurs within our community that are ready, but didn't know how to engage. So that time period that we spent working with the Toronto Community Benefits Network was so powerful, a learning experience for myself and my team. And today I'm really excited because, when we are engaging with entrepreneurs, we are seeing that need for structure, for growth, the desire in this landscape to pivot and really strengthen their value that they're bringing to the marketplace. And Empowered for X is really excited right now to really talk about helping people get, in procurement and investment ready, as you know, right? So I want to just give our audience an opportunity to connect a little with you, Kara. So tell us, how did your entrepreneurship journey start?
My entrepreneurship journey started about back in 2012. Well, this is the second inning. I had one probably 20, 25 years ago. And part of it was because I had a son at that time, and this time again I had another son. But I was working with the government and working, doing project management work in a senior departments in the government, and doing a lot of project management work, but not being acknowledged for that work, not getting credit for that work. I'm not being paid for that work. And having my son really kind of helped me put things into perspective.
It's okay.
I'll calculate it, honey. It's okay. It's okay.
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
So sorry.
no need to say sorry. We know with COVID, you know, parents are home, they're teaching their kids, so you're welcome on stage as well.
Thank you. Okay, I'll talk to you in a bit, hun. Not right now, okay? You can go back upstairs. I'll talk to you in a bit.
I wasn't. I didn't have anything to say to you.
Okay. I need to be alone right now. I'm sorry.
Please, if you spit it
Oh,
out over there.
sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, so this was the second reason. This little guy here. And yeah, it just became not a really kind of toxic environment for me trying to work and raise him and just being needing that flexibility in my schedule. So I used the skills that I had learned there, um, you know, running processes and making improvements and being really acknowledged for that and being one of the very few people in that particular environment that could work with data and analysis and being able to see patterns and systems in things, which was really important for them because it was, you know, a public serving organization, and using public funds efficiently and appropriately was important. So seeing trends and seeing patterns and how things develop and how to avoid certain things was very important, you know, to kind of head things off before they became problematic. So that was kind of the main reason, just really wanted to use my skills appropriately and, you know, work with who I want to work with, do have the flexibility in my schedule to have my personal life and be there for my kids.
Yeah, no, and I thank you so much for that. It's one of the things that we hear oftentimes, you know, people start businesses because of their love and passion for doing that thing, right? And really wanting to reach beyond where there's no limitation. So tell us a little bit more about your business and what you do for entrepreneurs or companies that you work with.
So we do efficiency services. So I work primarily with professional service providers and startups, and we take a look at their processes. So it's a business process management focused as well as efficiency focused. So we have products that we implement that focus on efficiency. So our blind product, for instance, we sell a solar blind product that's not like the commercial ones that you see in the stores. That really, so it absorbs heat in the summer and it deflects heat in the winter and then deflects it in the summer. And that creates a nice even environment for you to work in. It also blocks 85% of the glare and lowers your heating costs by about 40%. So, like for instance, on Zoom, if you're working in an environment where you've got a lot of glare coming into your face or a glare coming onto your computer screen, this will block 85% of that. So that affects your productivity. On the operational side, we look at the gaps that you may have in your back end and the systems that are set up that help you run your everyday operations. And I think it was you that I was giving the example of, you know, you could have a really nice shiny car, you know, a sports car that looks really great on the outside, but if the engine doesn't work, it's just sitting there looking pretty, right? It's not really helping you in any way. But on the outside, it might look great to everyone else. But that's still costing you, and it's still costing your reputation and all that. So we work with those things in your back end that aren't glamoury, that aren't necessarily generating direct income, but they are the foundation of your organization that helps you generate the income. So without that foundation, it's like a house or a building. Without a strong foundation, everything above it, so that would be your marketing, your customer service, your website, all of the pretty stuff, everything will just collapse in on itself eventually if that base is not strong and secure. So we help you build that strong, secure base by putting those little invisible things in place that keeps that engine running.
Hey, I think that's a great analogy. I mean, due to COVID, many people aren't driving to work anymore, but
Yeah,
so you can imagine your nice shiny car sitting on your driveway
yeah.
and it has no engine in it and you're going nowhere. uh, but you know, one of the things as you were describing just that process of looking at a business, it's like I oftentimes use the tool, the business model canvas, to talk to people about, you know, let's map out your business on a one pager. And the front
Mhm,
end typically looks at the value proposition, so the value you're bringing to the marketplace, as well as the customer. It looks at the customer relations, the channels, and the revenue. So that's the front end. So that's the shiny, glamorous thing. People see your brand, they see your
mhm.
colors, they want to engage. The
Yeah.
back end, as Kara is talking about it, that's where you're looking at your key partners, the operational pieces,
Mhm,
looking at the costs. If those processes aren't, you know, seamless or, you know, really easy to use, you're going to
mhm.
run into problems in the long run, right? So that,
That's it.
Kara, as someone who runs a business and works with companies to help them start their businesses as well, I
Yeah,
know what you're saying is so foundational in
yeah,
terms of being, you know, nimble as you're starting out, because you don't want
yeah,
to say, okay, I'm going to pour in, you know, $40,000 on an idea without testing it. So really take what we do here at Empowered Facts. We take people through an iterative process to test their idea, to make
mhm.
sure that those processes that they are building out or wanting to establish is, you know, easy to use and replicable, right? So the
Yeah.
founder oftentimes is the person that's doing the thing, but
Mhm.
remember, you're looking at building a business. So you have to think about, when I onboard teammates, is it
Exactly.
going to also be easy for me to communicate that information and for them to do it? So I
Yeah.
want to just say thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and it's good that you brought up teammates, because that's one of the things that a lot of people don't factor in: team dynamics, or even who you work with, or how you work with that person or those people into the equation. But that can definitely have an effect on your productivity and how effective you are. So one of the things that I always really stress is, you need to have the right people doing the right thing, using the right tools in the right way for the right purpose. Because it makes, if any one of those things are off or missing,
Yes.
it it's going to have an effect on your productivity, on morale, on how efficient you can be. And putting all of those things together and looking at how those all work in the background is really key to building that solid foundation and moving forward. And I think when people come to us, it's usually too late. Right?
Problems.
So it's like that, you have a house and there's a fire, and then you go look for insurance. That's how it works, right? But
So sad.
ideally, pardon me,
That's so sad and oftentimes very true,
it's
right?
the reality, right? Yeah, because and I don't think it's on purpose. It's your back end is one of those things that because you don't see it, you don't think it's important, and because it's not as glamorous, and it's just, to use the word sexy, if you want to use that, as some of the other functions in your business, then it doesn't really get that play. But it's like that admin person in your organization. They rarely get any credit for anything, but they're really the glue, right? They're really the glue that's kind of holding everything together. You lose your admin, and nobody knows where to find anything, right? No, nobody knows how to turn on the computer sometimes. But and yeah, and sometimes that doesn't get acknowledged. So setting up your operation from the beginning is ideal, but it's not often done that way. Sometimes, like, people sometimes have to fall a few times and fail a few times before they realize, hey, I need to put in some systems, or I need to put in some, templates or checklists, so that I'm not doing the same thing over and making the same mistakes and duplicating my work and wasting all this time. And that's when they realize, there's a better way to do this.
Yes, yeah. If you could just repeat for us the right that you talked, right team, right purpose, give us that again, that would be super awesome.
So you need to have the right person doing the right thing, using the right tools for the right purpose, for the right, I got them mixed up. The right person doing the right work, using the right tools for the right reason in the right way.
No,
down.
hey, I'm gonna take that snippet out and write it out and post it somewhere, right? As a North Star. Remember, when you're building business, as you know, you mentioned the word failure. And the reality is failure is part of the journey. Sometimes people don't like to start businesses because they fear. They're like, oh my, oh me, limiting beliefs. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in a bit. But I'm not good enough. I can't do it. But sometimes, and what it calls for is you trusting yourself and stepping out in faith, saying, you know what, I am going to try. And we're not saying to go and just try and blow a bunch of money on a specific idea. We're saying to do so in a way that you're able to deliver the minimal viable product or service. So you're testing, right? And really from that, you create a place where you can fail forward, fail quickly, fail cheaply, and progress, right? I believe it is John MacArthur talks about failing forward, right? And so failing forward is like, yes, you do have that failure, but you're still going to move towards your destination. Recently, talking about another car analogy, I met someone who shared, oftentimes we want to go to, let's say we want to take a journey to visit our grandparents' house. And on that way that we get a flat tire. And the question she asked is, what do you do? And so, my mind was like, okay, change the spare tire, call for help, put the tire back on. And she's like, yeah, that's what people do. They don't just sit on there. They don't leave the car and say, I'm going home now. They get the car fixed and then go on their destination, right? And so oftentimes when we have goals or aspirations that we're moving towards and we fail, most of us just stop or kick it aside and don't go forward. And failure is part of the journey. But the one thing that I really value what you said, Kara, is really we have the opportunity to learn. So get the templates, ask questions, seek mentors to help that failure gap be closed in, so you don't have, your failure is not going to be as much. Read the books, there's a saying, success leaves clues. So Kara, you talked about, that failure. And I know one of the topics that you're really passionate about is talking about limiting beliefs and that those elements that oftentimes hold people back. And, in honor of Black History Month, one of the things that we oftentimes hear and, is that sometimes within ourselves as Black people, because we've experienced so much trauma, so much hurt, we start believing the lies, fears, and insecurities that the world has put on us. And I actually have a piece about that. I do some spoken word in my spare time. I'll share that piece with you sometime. But
Nice.
yeah, so tell us a little bit about that, Kara.
Well, I mean, it's there's two sides to the coin, right? So you can say, yes, there was slavery and, that these things were done to us. And there's another side of the coin that says, and this might be hard for, some people to absorb, but, and not to say that anybody welcomed this, but there's always two sides, right? So I forget this, I think I have the book behind me there, but it's basically that there are people, yes, people were enslaved, and then also people did the enslavement. But there's a downside to being in that position of the master and the enslaver, right? That takes a certain kind of mental, I guess, outlook, if you want to call it that way, and not necessarily a balanced one, right? Because you can't do something to someone without first doing it to yourself, right? If I'm go and I get upset with you, I argue with you, or I'm going to get physical with you, that thought has to come up in my head first, right? So I'm actually doing that to myself before I actually do it to you. And so you have to kind of realize that while these people were enslaving people and brutalizing them, that was also having an impact on them. And this is not to pity them or feel sorry for them, but this is for them to acknowledge that they didn't necessarily get away with anything, because that damages your psyche, right? That damages your mental capacity, and then that carries on, right? That goes on generation to the generation. But the people being brutalized also learned resiliency, also learned to overcome things, also learned to find other ways to cope. And if you were able to get through all that, that puts you on a much higher plane than the person that was deprived mentally, right? And so you kind of have to flip the script a bit sometimes when people say, you know, you can't do this because I was told, you know, it's me and my two sons, and I never call myself a single mother because I really find that term derogatory, and it does not help anyone, right? It's a social construct that somebody made up to feel better about themselves or to create conflict, right? So it's me and my two sons, and by the time I was 30, I was working part-time, and I was able to buy myself a house. And my friends that were married and, you know, had two good jobs were not. And that's just because of the belief that people put, if you're single, or if you're Black, or if you're a woman, you can't afford a house, you can't buy a house. Well, I found a way. I didn't go through the traditional way. I didn't go get approved because they would not approve me. But I found at that time you could assume a mortgage, so you could take over someone else's mortgage, and that's what I did. And I was able to buy my house at the age of 30. But had I listened to other people, had I listened to all of the people that were saying, no, you can't, you know, because of this, or that, you know, your child is going to be like this because they don't have a father figure. My son right now, he's the first one. He had trouble in school, not trouble, but they weren't teaching him. And he didn't learn to read until grade 4 because they did not teach him. They just wouldn't teach him the things that he needed to learn. So I did that at home. But by the time he was in grade 4, he learned to read. And by grade 7 or 8, he was on the honor roll. He kept on the honor roll. Now he's a chemical engineer. Now, had I listened to people saying, well, you know, put him on Ritalin, he has ADHD, he has, I wouldn't even bothered with him. I would have just thrown my hands up and said, well, you're a lost cause. You know, forget you. You know, I'm your mother, I'm here, but yeah, I have no expectations of you. I didn't do that because I didn't believe them, first of all. And I knew what I saw in him. And what I saw was what came out. So the point I'm trying to get at is that, yeah, you can't let other people dictate to you what is your reality. And even though they're putting these limitations on you, it's really up to you to accept them. But if you have another path for yourself, if you have another vision for yourself, then that's what should come forth. That's what you need to focus on. And they're actually doing you a favor by underestimating you and underestimating your capacity. Because one of the things I found in my life is, and people always underestimate me, always, because I don't look like I'm, you know, like I'll hurt anyone, and I don't, unless, you know, you push me, then I have to get serious with you. But always underestimating and not, you know, not feeling that I can accomplish anything. And I say, okay, that doesn't matter to me. That's your thought, but that has nothing to do with me. Your opinion of me has nothing to do with me. And sure enough, because they have such low expectations of you, they're not expecting you to be up here. And it usually flatlines them when they see you up here because they didn't think you would go any further than where they wanted you to go. Mm-hmm. So the bottom line is, you know, you forge your own path. You dictate your own trajectory. And if people have opinions about you, that's their problem or their issue. You don't have to let their limitations become yours. You know what you're capable of, or, you know, you should know what you're capable of. And if you don't, you know, really find out, push yourself a little bit and find out and really understand that there's some mechanisms in society that really want to limit people, want to limit people of color, want to limit women, want to limit Black people. And you really need to understand that that's not accidental. That's a system that was created, And there have been umpteen opportunities to change those systems, but they're not changing. You just find a different way to do it. And you can't buy into that system because it's not gonna serve you in the long run. And you probably ask why. I'm still talking. And you probably ask why. And for me, I think it's all about money, and people profit from things like that. And I think once money's involved, money can be used for good or bad. And in those systems, money is not used in a good way. They're used to oppress people. So,
No, thank you so much for sharing. And most definitely, I feel like everybody has, I don't want to say everybody, but I'm sure either it's happened to you or you've heard it happen to someone else where limiting beliefs were put on or said on that about that person, right? And for myself, I think, I struggled back in 2016 in a major way, just thinking, I'm not good enough. I all of the insecurities around my appearance, my hair, all my lifestyle. I struggled a lot, and I actually found the spoken word piece that I was alluding to. It's called Our Redemption Song. So I'll
oh,
as
yeah.
we come to the close to the wrap up of our time together, I'll just share with you and our viewers today Our Redemption Song.
Okay.
You and I can break the chains of mental poverty by stepping into reality and thinking of things that could be. For there is greatness within you and me. We have been created for a divine purpose, so our passions can shine through us to change this world for you and me. We're in this together, you see. It's not just about me. Just me is kind of like a selfie boxed in, trapped in mental isolation, leading to mental insanity, which is not good for humanity. Stop listening and believing the fears, lies, and insecurities. Start thinking and believing in the positive possibilities. This will guarantee no hold of mental slavery. Always remember that we are loved by God Almighty, loved, valued, and important. Let us stand up together with divine authority, breaking free from all captivity, becoming the light we're meant to be, living and singing our redemption song. So that
Very
is my
nice.
piece. Thank you, thank you, thank you. um,
Very
I
well.
haven't looked at it in a little bit. Every now and then, when I find myself, struggling with the fear of, oh my goodness, I can't do this. That piece just comes back to me like
Mm-hmm.
a rocket and says, Chris-Beth, come on, wake up, refuse to believe the doubts and the fears, the lies and insecurities, and
Mm-hmm.
just trust the process, right? 2 days ago, I started a day ago, sorry. So this is day 2. So a day ago, I started BizGrams, and I'm still figuring things out. I'm gonna be honest. I don't have it all figured, and I'm stumbling my way to progress and success in my mind's eye. And I really believe that we've achieved and accomplished so much already. And as we're growing and learning through this process, it's only gonna get better, right?
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much, Kara, for sharing that with us.
You're welcome, and yeah, I think you're doing a great job, and you and the your friends at ACBN have always been at the forefront of doing things in the community, and um, I'm really proud of everybody. I think we can do this, for sure. As a community, we can do this, and we just have to, stay focused and work as one team. And I think we can do this.
Awesome. Yeah, so I have 2 final questions for you.
Okay.
So we have some people looking on, and just what is a tip or advice you have for an entrepreneur on their journey today?
One tip: um, be be ready, um, be prepared. Uh, it's going to be a bumpy road. There are going to be bumps in the road. Let me just put it that way. So, don't expect that everything is going to work out at the first try. That those things that you see on TV or companies that seem to have made it overnight, usually that's the 10-year journey, and they're showing it as if it happened, in 1 minute or 1 year, but it's usually the fourth inning for that business. And just be realistic about things like that, and understand that the important parts of your business are not necessarily the parts that are public and the parts that are visible. Like anything else, you see a great production like the Super Bowl, or in my case, I used to organize an event that was a 1 day event. It took us a whole entire year to plan for that 1 day. And we had to get counselors involved, and mayors, and they have schedules, so you have to work around that. But nobody sees that part, right? All they see is the event, and everybody's in where they're supposed to be, and the mic's working and all that. But just like the Super Bowl, all of that stuff, there's so much stuff that happens in the background and on in the back end. So your back end is really important. It's really important for you to get that squared off, and set up a good foundation for yourself. So.
Thank you so much for sharing that. The final question is, can you share a phonetical tip for entrepreneurs on their journey as well? And phonetical is my word that I have merged together and formed. It is fun and epic adventures, great or small, in moments that are enjoyed by yourself or in a group, right? And so a phonetical tip, a phonetical suggestion for living a epic, fun, epical life.
Well, eat ice cream. Eat ice cream. Eat something.
What is your favorite ice cream flavor?
So I have two. I love marble slab, but they're not. I haven't been there since the lockdown because I'm not sure how it works now. But what was it? Butter? Was it butterscotch? I think it was. But I think it was butterscotch. I can't even remember. But it had butter pecan marble slab, and Haagen Dazs caramel cone explosion. The extras. Those are
Wow.
my favorite. But for me, it's ice cream. At the end of the week, if I've had a really rough week, I still reward myself. And if I've had a really good week, I reward myself a little bit more. But just um, celebrate your little triumphs and give yourself a reward, whatever it may be, a massage or going for a walk or ice cream in my case. Yeah, just give yourself a reward so you can keep going and really celebrate those little wins, because sometimes they're few and far in between. So you need to celebrate them.
Yes. I say even, and that's why I say fun, epical, great and small, right? So a win for me, progress is something that I say, you just have to acknowledge, learn from the bad week that you may have had, and keep pushing forward as an entrepreneur, right? So,
Yeah.
Kara, I just want to say thank you so much for being with us here today. If you can just quickly tell people how they can get in touch with you, as they want to develop and fine tune their processes in their business,
Mhm.
explore what does that even mean as a startup, right? Most people may not even know, do I need to think about my back end? What does
Yeah,
that mean? How can people get in touch with you, Kara?
absolutely. So the easiest way is through my website, and it's www.planitefficiencies.com. And PlanIt is spelled PLANIT. I'm also on Instagram at Kara's Planet, saying PLANIT, LinkedIn and Facebook as well, and I think Google Business. But all of those links are on the website, or you can find an email link there as well. And yeah, your processes are key, especially if you're going to scale. And that's the goal of most businesses, is to eventually scale. You need those solid processes in place, and that is part of the biggest part of your back end is getting systems and processes in place so that you can eventually duplicate yourself and duplicate your efforts, and replicate yourself with the same amount of effort as if it was just one of you. You can do it with 10.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
No, definitely. So to everyone, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us here today. And tune in tomorrow again. We have our special guests, Amanda and Sanjeet from Jelly Social, who will be joining us to talk about the work that they're doing as entrepreneurs and some upcoming events as well. So take care. Thank you.
Thank you very much.